Move over Ford, Rivian, and Tesla, Chevy's got a new electric truck in town. What's up, folks? I'm Dave Undercoffler, head of consumer insights for CarGurus.com. Chevy has jumped headfirst into the all-electric pickup truck market with this, the Silverado EV. Everything about it is big. It's got big space, big range, big power, and to go with it, a big price tag. So how does it stack up against the Ford F-150 Lightning, the Tesla Cybertruck, and the Rivian R1T? Let's go spend some time with it and find out. But before we do, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you can get alerts on all of our future updates. All right, let's take a look at the exterior, but before we do, a quick word on pricing and trims. There are actually 3 different trims of this Silverado. The base is a work truck. It's called WT, and it starts at about $55,000. But the trick is it's sold under Chevy's commercial fleet, so it may be harder to get at your dealer. Then there's the base model for consumers called the LT. It starts at about $75,000. Then there's the RST, which we have here. The extended range RST is about $92,000, while this fully loaded RST with the max battery pack is $98,000 as it sits here. All right, now to the exterior. And as you can tell, Chevy worked really hard to set this electric Silverado apart from its gas counterparts, and they definitely succeeded. This is a huge truck, gets a lot of attention on the street, and definitely looks like it is something futuristic that would be electric. A couple of really cool design features. You've got this LED light bar running all the way across the front. This Chevy emblem is huge. It's also backlit, looks pretty cool at night. Underneath here is a frunk. It's a little bit bigger than the Tesla Cybertruck. It's about the same size as the Rivian, and it's smaller than the Ford F-150 Lightning, but it does have a lot of useful space. Pretty cool feature on electric trucks. Turning to the side, you can see how massive the Silverado EV is, but if you actually compare it to a gas-powered Silverado or the Cybertruck or the Ford F-150 Lightning, they're all about the same length overall. And if you remember, this Silverado EV is built on the same platform as the GMC Hummer truck and SUV. In terms of styling, again, everything is big on this truck, including the wheels. These are 24-inch alloy wheels on this RST trim. And another thing I want to point out is this C-pillar treatment. It kind of looks like the older Chevy Avalanche truck, kind of a sporty look. It definitely helps set apart this electric truck from Chevy's more traditional gas and diesel models. Finally, at the back of the truck, it continues that theme of big and bold. You've got these really cool and intricate taillights. I like that design there. You've got a side step built into the bumper, and then the huge Chevy emblem. One final feature that's really cool on the Silverado EV, it has Chevy's multi-flex tailgate. And this is a nice feature. They've got it on some of their gas trucks. Just adds more versatility and functionality into a very common part of your pickup truck. This Silverado also has a couple of other really cool features in terms of functionality. Now, the bed is 5 feet 11 inches. That's about the standard size for even a gas-powered truck. If that's not enough, there's a really cool trick up the sleeve of this truck, and that is the midgate. You can actually fold down the seat backs and the partition between the bed and the cabin, creating a really nice open space there below. And as you can see, we don't have the glass part removed, but that can come out as well, giving you a lot of space if there's something really big you need to haul. Finally, if you've got things to plug into your truck, Chevy's got you covered. In the bed here, there are actually 4 120-volt standard outlets like you'd find in your home. And then there's a connector here for a 240-volt. That's pretty cool. And if that's not enough, in the frunk, there's an additional 120-volt outlet. All right, now let's talk power and range. The base model, the WT that I was mentioning earlier, has 510 horsepower and up to 492 miles of all-electric range. Then there's the LT that has 645 horsepower and 408 miles of range. Finally, this RST has a whopping 754 total horsepower, and range will be either 390 miles in the extended battery or 460 miles in the max battery that we've got here. Finally, when it comes to charging, the Silverado EV supports DC fast charging at speeds of up to 350 kilowatts. That means that this truck could add 100 miles of range in just 10 minutes when plugged into a fast enough charger. Now to the interior of the Silverado EV. There are actually 3 things that drive me nuts about this cabin. We'll get to those at the end. We're going to talk about the good things first. Big screens are cool. You've got an 11-inch screen for your instrument panel here, and then a 17.7-inch screen here. Huge display, very crisp, very clear, easy to read. I love that. I also love that there are some physical buttons for the climate control down below. You've got some redundancy. You've got your driver and passenger climate controls here, but they're also built into the touchscreen. This infotainment system has Google built built in, so you've got Google Assistant, Google Map, Google Play Store, really nice screen, as I mentioned. And then because we're in the fully loaded RST, this thing has all the bells and whistles. That includes heated and cooled seats up front. I've got a heated steering wheel. We have GM's Super Cruise hands-free driving system. It's the best system on the market. Sorry, autopilot. We've also got a heads-up display, a digital rear-view mirror, and a surround view camera system, which is really helpful because this truck is enormous. You need all the parking help that you can get. In terms of connectivity and practicality, there is a ton of it in this Silverado EV. We've got a pair of USB-C charge ports down below, wireless smartphone charging there. You've got another outlet here. Inside here, there's another USB-C charge port, and then storage everywhere. Cup holders, a cubby here. Like I said, that space in there. There's actually a secret compartment under here. This slides out of the way. Pretty deep. You could put maybe a purse in there. You've also got cup holders on the doors. So again, a lot of functionality that you would expect in a pickup truck. Now, as I mentioned, those three things that really drive me nuts about this Silverado EV, they're not quite deal breakers, but they're starting to add up to be somewhat close to that. The first one is there is no Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto. Not even offered. GM has made the decision not to include it in many of its vehicles moving forward, so it's not even an option on this truck. That is really frustrating. Not quite the user experience I would like. I really hope GM goes back on their decision, but overall, you're really just gonna have to use what's on this. What is interesting is that it does have Waze built in. That's the navigation app. We live in LA. I use it all the time to get around traffic, so it's nice that GM put it into this system, but it still doesn't add up to the overall experience people are used to in Apple CarPlay. So that's a huge frustration. My second gripe, the Silverado has this really nice glass roof. The problem is there is no shade, there is no button to turn it opaque when it's sunny out and you want to keep the cabin cool. That's really frustrating. I'm not sure why this is a $98,000 truck. I don't know why Chevy couldn't include some sort of system to give you a little coverage there. Finally, my third gripe is that these side view mirrors, the glass in them is flat. They're not convex like nearly every other vehicle on the road today. Or they don't have the two-part mirror that many heavy-duty trucks have today. What this ends up doing to your driving experience is creating really large blind spots. As I mentioned, this is already a huge truck, and having these mirrors makes it that much harder to see what's right next to you when you're changing lanes on the freeway. Big miss by Chevy in my book. All right, now to rear seat space. And as you might expect for a truck this big, it is cavernous back here. I've got almost 44.5 inches of legroom. That's more legroom than the gas Silverado, and then all three of the big competitors to this EV version. That's the F-150 Lightning, the Cybertruck, and the Rivian. Tons of space here. I'm 6'1". I've got this seat to where I would have it if I were sitting up there. So basically I'm sitting behind myself. I've got so much space, I can cross my legs. This is like riding in the back of a limo. So really pretty cool. Big benefit of having such a large truck. The seats also pretty comfortable back here. And then you've got a few amenities. We've got 3-stage heated seats and then a pair of USB-C charge ports down below and a 120 volt outlet. Next up, driving impressions. And you can tell that Chevy has been building EVs for a while because they put a lot of their knowledge and experience into what this Silverado is like to drive. Lots of little things that really add up to a really nice experience for an electric vehicle. A good example of that is the regenerative braking. There are actually 3 different levels of regenerative braking you can have, and it's very easy to fine-tune those on this Silverado. So you can have it off completely if you want a more natural driving experience. You're used to driving a gas-powered car. You can have it on standard. That's what I've been using most of the time while we've been testing this. And then there's the high level, which actually is almost too strong. I drive EVs a lot, and that really slows the car down as soon as you come off the throttle. So standard is good, but I like that you can fine-tune that very easily. Another thing about this Silverado is, as I mentioned, it is huge. This is a really big truck, and despite having mirrors that make it hard to see out the side, overall, the truck actually drives a lot smaller than it is. Part of that is because of the power. As I mentioned, 754 total horsepower in this RST version. That absolutely helps this truck scoot really fast. It does 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds. That's incredible because this is a very heavy truck. It weighs almost 16 to 1,800 pounds more than a Silverado 2500 HD, and that's a really big truck. So really heavy, but with all that power, it gets out of its way very easily, and it's a lot of fun to drive. But there is one trick to actually getting all of that horsepower. You have to put this truck into the right mode. It's called the WOW mode, and that stands for wide open watts. Basically, you put it into that mode. I'll do it right now. It actually makes a really cool sound. I don't know if you guys can hear it on camera. All right, that lets you know it's ready to go. It's got all of the horsepower on tap. And then when you do the acceleration, again, 4.1 seconds. Generally in normal around town driving, daily driving, it's not in that mode because you don't need all that horsepower. But if you do want it, it's there at a touch of a button. But in terms of daily drivability, it's very easy to live with this truck. The steering feels good. As I mentioned, the brakes also feel very natural. It has an adaptive air suspension that will change its behavior depending on which mode you have the truck in. Another nice thing, it has four-wheel steering. So big truck, but when you have four-wheel steering, it makes it really easy to maneuver in tight spots. So that's nice in parking lots. You really don't notice it in sort of normal daily driving. Pretty quiet cabin. I will say there is a bit of road noise coming in. These are pretty thin tires on those 24-inch alloy wheels. And there's a little bit of wind noise coming from these side view mirrors. So maybe it's not entirely as quiet as you'd expect from a $100,000 EV, but it's still pretty good. Finally, the visibility is good as long as you're looking straight out the front of the windshield. You're sitting up high, you've got a nice commanding view of the road, that's pretty nice. But the minute you start looking over your shoulder or looking in other lanes, it gets pretty tricky. The A pillar, B pillar, and C pillar are all really thick, so they're blocking your view, and then you have those goofy mirrors that make it that much harder to see out of, so that's pretty tricky. You do have lots of sensors, lots of blind spot monitors that make things a little bit easier, but still, you really have to pay attention when you're changing lanes. All right, so just to review, 460 miles of range, 754 horsepower if you've got it in the right mode. Those are really impressive numbers, but do they justify the nearly $98,000 price tag on this truck? What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. All right, folks, there you have it, our review of the 2025 Chevy Silverado EV. Pros, well, it has immense range paired with DC fast charging capability, making this a very livable, practical electric vehicle. And then there's the utility of it. You've got tons of space on the inside, plus a very functional bed, and then the midgate and tailgate all add up to a very usable truck. Finally, this thing drives a lot smaller than it is, which is good because it's big. So it's a lot of fun to drive around town and on the freeway. Cons? Well, it's those three things I mentioned earlier. No Apple CarPlay connectivity, the glass roof with no shade, and these goofy mirrors that make it really hard to see out of. Plus, this is a very expensive vehicle, almost $100,000 as you see it here. But despite those shortcomings, we do like this truck. We think it outdoes all of the other trucks in terms of its practicality, its range, its usability, and its comfort. But all of that comes at a significant price. So for reviews or listings of this Silverado or anything else you're shopping for, new or used, be sure to check out CarGurus.com. And before you go, like and subscribe to this channel so you can get alerts on all of our future updates.